Welcome back to Film Snob HQ. The road to Avengers Doomsday trudges on. We're almost there. We're getting very close to the end now. And today we're talking about the final Sony non-Spider-Man outside of the Marvel Universe film, whatever that franchise is called. We are at the end of it. We are talking about Kraven the Hunter, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson, Russell Crowe, and a bunch of other wonderful people as well. This flick got missed by a ton of people. I was talking to Nick on the podcast yesterday the other day when we sat down to record, and he asked me what I was up to, and I said Kraven, and he said, "What's that?" This film sadly did not get a ton of marketing because by the time this film came out, Sony had pretty much announced they were closing things down. They weren't going to do any more non-Spider-Man films until they'd regrouped, which is a shame because I think this film actually is where the universe finds its stride, to be honest. I think it's one of the better ones. If I had to rank the Sony Universe films, I would put Mobius down the bottom, then Madam Web, then Venom 3, then this, then Let There Be Carnage, then Venom. I think this and Let There Be Carnage are interchangeable. Let There Be Carnage, I think, is more entertaining, but this one has a lot more going for it in terms of tone, I would say. Anyway, we'll talk about the film itself. So, Kraven the Hunter, it's not the OG Kraven from the comics. I'm not a huge reader of Kraven stuff. I know I've read Kraven's Last Hunt and a few other issues and stuff like that, but I don't know him as well. However, I do know that he's a trophy hunter, and that is not this character at all. His father, played by Russell Crowe, is. So it feels like they've kind of made him the old school version of Kraven, and Sergei Kravinoff, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, is kind of a new version of it. He's a hunter, but he hunts humans. They've also turned into a bit of an anti-hero. He's hunting down bad guys, but only bad guys who threaten his family, particularly his brother. So he's certainly not a hero. He's not afraid to kill. This is also the bloodiest and most violent of the Sony Universe villain films. And I think it's a shame they waited until this one. Again, this is great. The violence and the action is really good. But if they had done that from day one with Venom, yeah, they might not got the same box office, because the kids couldn't go to it. But I think they would have potentially been received better by critics and audiences alike because they were doing something different. All the other films feel like, kind of pale imitations of MCU movies, particularly Mobius and Madam Web in particular, and like not pale imitations of MCU films, like pale imitations of Marvel films before the MCU existed. Like they kind of went step backwards. I enjoyed them for what they are, but they're definitely on the weaker end of the scale. This feels like it's doing something different. It's taking a more mature approach to it. The way James Gunn approached his DC TV stuff, or his Suicide Squad film. It's like, yes, those DC films exist and they exist in the same world, but when you go into my universe, it's a lot more mature, and that's what Kraven gives us. So I think for that alone, I think it deserves points because it is trying something different that Marvel wasn't really doing since Blade. Since Blade, we haven't had a particularly violent film. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. Obviously, the Daredevil TV show and the Netflix series will, obviously have some stuff there as well. But this one, I think, for the Sony universe, is quite interesting. Logan as well. Now that I'm saying them out loud, there are more. There are more. But I still think it's good. I like they did that. The main antagonist of the film is the Rhino, who we last saw in Amazing Spider-Man 2, played by, how am I forgetting his name? There's a guy who always comments on my videos. He's going to tell me who it was because I've completely blanked on his name. But he's amazing. He's a incredible actor. Paul Giamatti, who played the Rhino in Amazing Spider-Man 2. We got there, guys. I didn't need the internet. This Rhino is very different. He's also a departure from the comics. So Kraven in this movie is enhanced. He was exposed to like a magical herb by Calypso when he was a child, and it gave him regenerative abilities. He can run faster. He's stronger than the average human. There's a great sequence where he's in prison lifting weights, and two guys come in to try and to harm him. They push the barbell down on him, and he lifts them both up and the weight. That's how strong he is, which is kind of a cool moment. Rhino is not a guy in a suit. He turns into a rhino. He's also enhanced. He's got a serum in him that he can willfully change, kind of like Hulk. And I'll be honest, I dig it. I know it's not comic accurate, but I actually like the human rhino. I like that he hulks up and turns into... I actually think it looks cool, and like it's something we haven't seen before. And there's a sequence towards the end where Kraven is fighting Rhino, and it's breathtaking. Rhino's throwing a truck at him. There's like all this buffalo running around and stuff. It's a pretty intense sequence. I think it works really well for the film. The film also ends with a tease because Kraven's brother is also Dimitri is also in the film. He's kind of a victim most of the movie. Like he's a victim of his father. He's a victim of the Rhino. He's constantly held hostage and obviously not as strong as Kraven. But then we start to realize by the end of the film that maybe he orchestrated a lot more than he let on, and he is of course revealed to be the Chameleon, which is a very cool tease. It would have been great if we had explored that more in this universe, but unfortunately, Sony closed it all down. This, I think, should have been the blueprint for the Sony universe. Take the shackles off and just go for that R rating. Go for that hard R, go for that more mature audience. And I think they probably would have found a lot more success. The performances in this are really good. I like Russell Crowe in this. He's been in 3 superhero films. He played Jor-El, he played Zeus, and now he's played, Kraven's dad. I would say after Jor-El, it's my favorite. I think I like him as Kraven's dad more than I like him as Zeus. Aaron Taylor Johnson, this is his 3rd comic book film. He did Kick-Ass, he did Avengers Age of Ultron, and now he's done this. There might be another one, I'm trying to think. I really like him in this. I think he's really good as Kraven. So yeah, not a terrible film. It is the end of the Sony universe, at least for now, other than the Spider-Man movies. I think it's a good one to end on. It's definitely one of the stronger ones. Madam Web and Mobius definitely tested me this time around. Venom: The Last Dance tested me more than my original time watching it, but this one here was really fun to watch. It's really action packed. There's some cool stuff in there, and just a different character, just doing something a bit different. That's all I got for Kraven. Next up is Captain America: Brave New World.